Cardiovascular disease, disease of the heart and disease of the vessels. It's known that chronic work-related stress has been identified as a significant and independent risk factor, so stress alone can cause cardiovascular disease, and this is compounded again by the sedentary work environment. Similar to this, depression, again, an independent risk factor for mortality even after heart attack. Successful therapy of depression then will improve the quality of life and cardiovascular outcomes in these people. So work-related stress, sedentary lifestyle, and depression. For coronary artery disease, which is of course cardiovascular disease, just specifically of the heart vessels, conditions that have been shown to facilitate the development of this coronary artery disease and provoke a worse prognosis in those who already have it are inferior adherence to lifestyle modifications, that's the diet and exercise, and the medications. Greater platelet activation and aggravation, so imbalance in blood. Endothelial dysfunction, the vessels themselves are unhealthy, and impaired autonomic function. Lowered heart rate variability, which I'll talk about. So of these, of the stress, of the depression, the lifestyle modifications, heart rate variability, etc., we haven't really known much about depression, or most people don't know that depression can actually worsen heart disease. And heart rate variability I'll talk about a little bit as well, because it's not so well known. So depression, here's some studies, there are an awful lot of them, that show that depression is 3 times more common in survivors of MI, heart attacks. So you're more likely to have it, it is more likely to make you sick, and even if you haven't had a heart attack, it can aggravate heart disease. So associated with development of coronary artery disease, development of heart failure, and poorer outcomes in those who have had heart attacks. Treatment of this depression, though, can eliminate this. Heart rate variability. So this is variation in the intervals between heartbeats. This is a normal physiological function. When we take a breath in and when we exhale, our heart responds to the different amounts of blood that's being pumped out, and it decreases or increases our heart rate to deal with this. So healthy hearts vary lots from beat to beat. You can see here that from beat to beat, there's a different heart rate, a different interval between beats. When a doctor takes your heart rate, they're taking an average. We feel it ourselves, we're not going to feel a slight variation of milliseconds in our heart rates. So this is being seen as slightly more important now, that those who have cardiac abnormalities or disease have low variations. The hearts aren't responding to changes in the internal and external environments. They're not dealing and coping as well. So their hearts start to beat like a metronome regardless of what is happening to them. So just a little bit, I'm not going to overcomplicate this. The vagus nerve here in green, this is parasympathetic. This slows the heart down, calms you down. And sympathetic in red is going to speed up your heart rate. When you're sitting here resting, when you're doing your normal everyday things, vagal tone, parasympathetic dominates. You're resting, you're relaxing, the heart is slow. When sympathetic takes over again, the heart speeds up. So when we have decreased parasympathetic activity and increased sympathetic, this results in reduced heart rate variation. The heart starts to beat like a metronome. And this is a marker of psychological and physiological stress when the autonomic nervous system starts to dysfunction. So looking at all this, why yoga? These 5 major factors that we've discussed: stress, sedentary lifestyle, depression, poor lifestyle choices, and decreased heart rate variability. Why looking at yoga for these? So, the research. Can't really go any further without discussing Dr. Dean Ornish. He's a clinical professor in California, and he was the first physician and cardiologist, and he definitively proved that the benefits of yoga, combined with other lifestyle modifications, reduced coronary artery disease. So not only just decrease the likelihood of events afterwards, but actually decrease the actual disease itself. I'll show you the study in a moment. Most importantly for our program, he has now obtained Medicare approval, which, if you know the American system, is the equivalent of the medical card. So this is now available to people. His program for lifestyle modification is now available to people in centres. There's not a lot of them yet, but hopefully there will be more. It's called the Multi-Site Cardiac Lifestyle Intervention Program. He's a good doctor, but doesn't name programs very well, in my opinion. This is New York bestseller, this book, his program for reversing heart disease. Very interesting read if ever you have the time. So I'll just briefly go through this seminal study, 1990, published in The Lancet, one of the most prestigious journals in the world. So he had a randomized control trial including patients already with coronary artery disease. The program included yoga, meditation, a strict low-fat vegan diet, smoking cessation, regular exercise, and very important group support. 28 patients in the experimental group and 20 to the usual care group, the same care anyone with coronary artery disease would get. So after the intervention, they looked at these people and they did angiography on them, looking at the actual vessels in their heart, found 195 lesions in these 48 people. 82% of the experimental group patients had an average change towards regression of disease, not just lack of progression, actual regression. And this had never been shown before. So it was very surprising work. His most recent work is looking at lifestyle change and gene changes in the body. So he's shown that lifestyle changes can turn on disease-preventing genes and turn off genes that promote cancer and heart disease. Specifically looking at telomerase, with this lady, Elizabeth Blackburn, who awarded the Nobel Prize for the discovery of telomeres. Telomeres are these little bright spots on the end of our chromosomes, and they cap the chromosomes, and they prevent them from breaking down. And as the telomeres shorten, each time our cells reproduce, they shorten and shorten, and when they're no longer there, the chromosomes disintegrate and the cells die. The enzyme telomerase keeps these lengthened. So by switching on this gene, you can keep the cell alive for longer and keep it healthier. This is currently very important in cancer research as well, to interfere with telomerases. So he's got a very interesting study. A separate study that this isn't him, this is someone else. This is looking at the heart rate variability again. So ECGs, 42 healthy male volunteers, so non-yogic practitioners, and 42 experienced yogic practitioners. The overall conclusion of the study is they show that they had strengthened parasympathetic tone. They could slow, their heart was naturally slower in stressful situations, as Simon said. So they have better heart rate control, just through breathing techniques largely. Another study. So yoga and stress. This particular study compared inflammation and endocrine responses in novice and yoga experts. Novices were just 6 to 12 classes, experts about 2 years practice, 1 to 2 classes a week. So they exposed them to yoga, movement, which was just treadmill, walking on a treadmill, and watching a video. It was actually about quantum physics, I believe, so it's been very exciting. So they examined these 50 women, and they showed that their IL-6, their interleukin-6, which is a measure of inflammation and stress, that they produced less of it in response to any stressful situations. They exposed them to different stressors, different tests, exams, and they just didn't produce as much stressful or inflammation hormones and endocrine molecules in response to stress than the novices, even people who are already practicing yoga. So these increased experiences, and that was associated with these high levels of IL-6, they're associated with diseases. So overall, they had ability to minimize autonomic and inflammatory responses, so controlling your heart, decreasing inflammation just by decreasing stress through yoga. Just a little on yoga and rehabilitation. The traditional rehabilitation program occurs, well, people get into it when they have a cardiac event, typically a heart attack or any sort of intervention where they have stents placed, PCI, or surgery, valves replaced, etc. It's designed to incorporate lifestyle changes and exercises to rehabilitate them, but it's quite standard, and pictures down here, you see at the bottom, this is the standard type of program that they do. I've attended it before, it's not very exciting. They're very nice people and they seem to get more fun out of chatting to each other and that is group support than doing the exercise. And then of course with the health system, people are often lost time, staff, resources, they can't get as much time as they would like to. So our program, the Papillon program, this was more interesting, it's innovative and stimulating program that hopefully would result in better medium and long-term results, that people would stick with it and that it would be better for them as a health activity in the first place. So Mr. DaCosta and Dave, they designed a preliminary yoga program for these post-cardiac surgery patients. Our first group all had a bypass. They were all Mr. DaCosta's patients. So they designed a program, yoga postures and breathing exercises, along with the fact that they were with a group of people that they knew had gone through the same thing as they had. So it was assessed by taking blood pressure measurements before and after the sessions throughout the entire month, and quality of life scoring, so standardized quality of life scoring, both again at the beginning and end. So the results in general, they reported more confidence. A lot of these were reported without us asking them. We did the blood pressure and we did the quality of life, and just asked them what they thought of it, and they reported these things without being solicited for it. More confidence, enhanced ability to cope with stress. We saw a trend towards reduction in blood pressure. Don't have large enough numbers for it to be statistically viable yet. Better quality of life scores, they were overall happier. They continued the yoga practice, many of them, particularly the Yoga Nidra, which is a guided meditation and relaxation CD that they were given, something they could do at home. And they report increased clarity of mind and improved cognition. So cognitive function is known to be negatively impacted by cardiopulmonary bypass, which they would all be on bypass during surgery, any sort of major surgery, and general anaesthetic. This in fact can last for up to 8 to 12 months for many patients afterwards, and they immediately within a few weeks reported an improvement in their cognitive function, reported by their spouses and loved ones as well, not just themselves. So I'd like to just finish with what they said themselves in the final program. So after my surgery, people said I was getting better, but I didn't feel like I was better. I tried things like joining a gym, but could never stick at it. When the letter about this program came through the door, it felt like the universe was talking to me. Now all I want is for it not to stop. Again, we didn't solicit these comments. It wasn't a comment sheet. They just said these things to us. It's something that's there all the time. It's not like you have to go to a chemist to get a prescription filled. You can do it yourself at home when you want to, and it works. I was a little apprehensive at the beginning, thinking, how the hell did I get into this? But as it went on, what impressed me was the simple things that you can do to make you feel better. We can do it ourselves at home. And one gentleman told me that his sister is 86 and she's been doing yoga since she was 76. It's inspiration for you all. She had both her hips and both her knees replaced, and she's more nimble than most women I know. I think it's worth pointing out as well that these people weren't the kind of people that go, yeah, I think I'll go to yoga. These people were bachelor farmers that lived out in the country, or priests. They were people from all walks of life, and all ages as well. Some younger people who had had heart problems, and some of them were so angry when they arrived why this had happened to me, and afterwards they were happy, they were content, they had accepted it, and they found something that could help them move on. Again, just things that they said to me afterwards. So in conclusion, we need to advance medical intervention to focus on lifestyle change, not a boring rehabilitation program that will not stimulate people. We need something that they will do out of the joy of doing it, not because they want to protect their heart. So we're currently designing an approved program that will hopefully reach more people to rehabilitate cardiac patients, as well as people at high risk for cardiac disease, and I think that is a very important thing, that prevention. We want to target the people that are at high risk, and then maybe people that are at low risk, so that we can get everyone in good health, and that we don't have to do the operations in the first place and make them recover from that, get them before it happens. So prevention is, of course, the best medicine. Here we are all looking fabulous. Thank you very much for your attention.